Welcome to Cybersecurity Growth, a show for aspiring and existing cybersecurity leaders. I'm your co-host, Sean Valley, Managing Director and CISO of Cybersecurity Growth. I'm also a musician here on Twitch and elsewhere under the name Music by SV, but more on that later. Welcome to episode number 23. Level up your career with training and certifications. And hello to my co-host, Garrett Gross. Hey, Garrett.
Well, hey there, Sean. How's it going?
I'm doing great. It's Friday. It seems to always be Friday when we ask each other these questions.
It's always Friday.
So it's like, hey, we're going into the weekend. This is fantastic. Though anybody who knows, who's ever worked in cybersecurity and specifically in like the SecOps side, this is either the scariest day of the week or the second scariest day of the week. It's generally like the incidents, the massive security incidents only show up on like Thursday at 4 p.m. or somewhere around Friday. That's just
Absolutely.
For whatever reason, as you're like getting ready for Miller time. And no, you're not.
but about to take that sip, it's like, no, we're not.
No, you're not. So anyways, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. The weather's starting to change here. It's starting to get a little bit cooler. I think we'll have another raise in temperatures next week, but it's, finally starting to not be summer, which is nice. It's only the middle of October.
We are deep in, we're at the end of the New England foliage. Like the red leaves are all there. Those that are left.
Right.
Visited Vermont last weekend for a friend's wedding. So like we were deep in New England, out in the middle of nowhere with lots of trees.
Love that.
Yeah. All right, let's get into it. I'm excited for today's show.
But what's funny, because we've been dancing around this topic for a long time, saying like, oh, we'll put a section in the podcast and we'll get to it. I'm really glad that we're dedicating a show to this topic, because I think this is something that a lot of people ask about, a lot of people can learn from, and it just feels good kind of, sharing what I know about.
I'm with you on all of those things you just said. Like very, very excited for us to get into this today. But before we get into the hot topic of the day, we both think of ourselves as some fancy, famous cyber guys who love to walk the red carpet into all of the big cybersecurity events and get stopped by the paparazzi. And they want to stop each of us separately and ask us that ever important question as you walk into those big award shows. And the question is, hey, Garrett, what are you wearing today?
Oh, who am I wearing? So I'm wearing a shirt from a company called ForcePoint.
ForcePoint.
Many of you may not have heard of this company, but I guarantee you have. So you ever heard of a company called WebSense?
I have heard of WebSense, yeah.
Yeah, so WebSense, not ForgePoint, that's a VC, but ForcePoint.
Yeah, that messes with me.
Right. It used to be WebSense, or maybe they acquired WebSense back in the day. Raytheon actually owned ForcePoint for a while. And they're basically, they do a lot of stuff, but what I know them from is like content blocking and things of that nature. And they've got a bunch of government contracts with a bunch of hush-hush things that we won't talk about as well. But I just remember getting this shirt. This was one of my early grabs from, like Black Hat, 6-7 years ago or something like that. And I love this shirt. It's very comfortable. It's very, very slimming, and it's just a fun shirt. And I think I won't do that, but I think the back is like the tour dates type of numeration.
Oh yeah,
as well.
We both know like those are our favorite types of shirts. How do you make like a music concert lover, cyber nerd, like love your shirt, turn it into a concert like rock tour T-shirt?
Exactly. And it's some like, it's just a cool design. I just like a human-centric cybersecurity, which, as we all know, the human is the weakest link in that chain. So
we are, aren't we? We are.
We are.
Well, nice. Thank you for sharing. And I just think, as you said, a Raytheon-owned company. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Cyber company owned by Raytheon. So lots of DoD type squirrely stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Well, I'll pass the mic to you, and I'll ask you, who are you wearing today, Sean?
I got a couple things on. One, because it's getting a little chilly in the neighborhood, I needed to, keep the trunk a little warm. So I got my classic Patagonia with the Rapid 7 logo on it here. This one gets a lot of mileage. I've had this one since 2020. This one's been in the closet since 2020, and it generally makes its way out when I'm in the recording studio, which is a smidge chillier than every other room intentionally. But it keeps the trunk
Well,
warm.
and good on you for pairing it with a t-shirt and not a long sleeve button up that
Oh yeah,
is
yeah,
so typical for the tech bro
yeah.
type folks that we deal with, which no offense to the tech bros out
Hey.
there. You're doing your thing.
You're doing your thing. And I'm also, this is one of the many shirts acquired at this year's Black Hat. This is Threat Locker. Threat
That's
Locker.
right.
So endpoint protection. They're in the endpoint protection space. I actually haven't used their stuff before, but went over, checked out their booth. They're in Black Hat, learned a little bit about it. Asked, the questions like, hey, with all of the endpoint protection tools in the world, why are you here? Why do you exist? Because endpoint security, EDR, that space is, holy moly, has that blown up where I was really shocked this year at Black Hat at how many endpoint security companies I ran into whose names I knew, but I didn't know their products. Like I know all the big players. I've deployed a lot of them. So I was kind of curious to go meet these other players who I'm like, oh, you're newer in this space, don't know you as well as others. Let me get to know you and kind of like get a sense of like, why would I want to know you other than other big names that I've seen and worked with?
One of the things that I've noticed that a lot of those new EDR vendors are pairing their agent offering with like a threat intelligence team on the back end, and kind of that's their value add. So pretty cool to kind of see this, convergence of product and managed service as well. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's neat. It's neat. So, well, now we know who you're wearing today.
Now we
So,
know who
very,
you're
very
wearing.
nice. All right, now we can enter the big ceremony and get into it. So, today's topic, as you may have heard,
Do we have any new Twitch or YouTube followers?
it's funny. As I got here, I was like, wait, do I have the right? Did I actually open up the right screen? I'm like, hold on, let me see. I know this is one of our favorite parts of the show where I get to see the names of the followers since the last time we got together.
Well, that's not my favorite part of the show. My favorite part is when you're saying the names.
I might have them. I do. Oh, this is great. We've had, according to this, 3 followers recently. So I'm going to say a thank you to 3 new followers on Twitch. First one here who joined us on October 8th is RHE's Bees. Rees Bees. Thank you for the follow, Rees Bees. Thank you. The next one joins us on October 10th, Cyber Queens 7. The Queens with an X at the end, not an S or a Z, but an X. Queens is 7. Thank you for the follow. And the last one here, Don Cypress Realtor. So apparently we've got a realtor cyber fan on Twitch joining us. Well, hey, Don Cypress Realtor. Appreciate you.
One of my favorite people that I've met was a guy that I did a CTF with a while back who started to get to know him. He's an oncologist, not like, oh, I just do this, oncology for fun. No, like he has an oncology practice and he does the CTFs for fun. It was very interesting. It's always cool to see people coming in from different.
That is super. That is actually really, really cool. I looked over on YouTube over the last few weeks. It's been a couple weeks since we got together. Couple weeks. And yeah, it's just I'm seeing some folks follow us over on YouTube, and I've been seeing folks download the podcast. We can't say it enough. We appreciate you all taking a listen and a watch to the shows, whether it's live, whether it's on Memorex, or whether it's on VHS. We appreciate you for checking us out. We have fun doing the show.
There are VHS tapes of our podcast floating around.
There's gotta be VHS of our
early 90s.
Maybe on a Betamax. I don't know. All right, hot topic for the day. We're getting right into it. We have had this on our rundown since Garrett and I started to do this show together, and today's the day we're really going to get into it. We initially titled it The Job Market, but the truth is we're going to talk about areas where we think we ourselves and maybe you at home, areas that might just be able to help you kind of level up your career. And like we titled the show, level up your career with trainings and certifications. We started digging into ways that people can grow their career. I think a lot of people who I talk with who are early on in their cybersecurity career, thinking about their future pathway. Some, really excited to go down the governance path. Some really excited to be security engineers, cyber defenders. Some want to, be ethical hackers. Others want to just like live in incidents all the time. Like everybody has these different. Others want to be the business leaders, and others, want to be that CISO. All different all different paths. I actually had a conversation with a person today, and I asked them, what's your career path? And they specifically said, I don't want to be a CISO. Not sure I want to get into the risks that come with it, the legalities that come with it, but I do want to understand all aspects of that business, but just not sure I'd feel comfortable with that responsibility of that title on my shoulder. And I said, it's super interesting. I'd love to talk more about it another day.
That's something I hear a lot is that people just aren't aware how many different types of jobs there are in security. I mean, you don't have to be an ethical hacker. You can go into things like compliance. You can be a supporting function of the security, department. And there are multiple security departments. So I think that's a worthwhile start is just to let folks know that, hey, there are many, many different pathways to get into security and it doesn't have to be you can switch you can kind of multi-position yourself like you started in security operation actually before that you were
I was in
just
identity compliance
you're
is how I
also
stumbled, but I wasn't a security person. I was in, way back when I was a software developer, I was a Lotus Notes developer. Way back, I did not even know how to spell security. I was a Lotus Notes developer. But when I got into security, I was in like professional services at a company that did identity access reviews. Right, and it was a piece of software that does access reviews, identity compliance, identity governance. And I was like, this is a cool space. I'm going to stay in security. But I got into it as a tech implementation person who then
Mhm.
started working with compliance teams to help them implement a piece of software. And then to your point, Garrett, like then I got into SecOps because I had an opportunity. It was in front of me like, hey, do you want to run SecOps for this team I have? And I said, I've never run ops before, but I do love to roll up my sleeves. I love to learn new stuff. And I love to figure out, hey, this isn't going to be easy, but I've never really liked the easy job. Let's figure it out.
Well, I definitely don't talk about this much as far as like how I got into security, but I've been a filthy hacker since I was a little kid. I mean, I can remember figuring out how to, DOS the computer lab from my home, the computer lab at school from home, using caller ID to figure out what that number was. So I've always had an interest, I think, in security, but only until I got into IT and actually kind of had that opportunity afforded to me did I even really start with exploring operational security.
Yeah.
We'll skip all the independent research and development opportunities I had as a young kid. But
Before we get into like the details of like what we put together for today, one of the things
yeah,
Garrett and I have said this on some of our earlier shows, and we usually say it at the end. I wanted to say it towards the beginning that we have this. Well, I will call it a service, but it's really just something we like to do where we call it our resume workshop. And we
oh
would
yeah,
love for you, our listeners, our viewers, who are saying, hey, how can I improve my resume? How can I make my resume stand out from others? I've been a part of a hiring team right now for a job that is currently published, and I have seen 250 resumes overnight come in for that job. And when I went to tell somebody that story, the person next to me basically said, oh yeah, hold my beer. They said, I had 600 resumes come in for the job that I posted the other day. So guess what? There's a ton of people looking for jobs. I have seen many of them are out of work and looking, and I've seen many, many people who are just kind of looking to see what's out there. So
uh-huh.
if you're trying to say to yourself, how do I get my resume to stand out? One of the things Garrett and I have offered for a very long time is send us your resume. You can reach out to either of us on any of our socials or any of our email addresses. We will give them at the end of the show.
Yeah.
And you can send us your resume. You can send it plain text with all of your information on it. We assure you that we will scrub your data. We will never share any of your IP or your PII publicly. We will not do that. But what we will
Yeah.
do is we will scrub your resume and we'll have a show discussing what we find and what we think might be helpful for your resume to stand out in a stack of resumes.
Because I'm going to be honest, as someone who also has gotten thousands of resumes thrown at me, most of them are complete garbage. Most resumes are hot trash that are just, and again, this is no, trash talking on anyone who's creating the resumes. Just a lot of people don't understand there is an art and a formula to creating a resume, to your point, Sean, that will stand out amongst the 600 other resumes that are out there. And I know you've done this too, but I've done this for friends many times. Just, hey, give me a resume. I'll help clean it up. I'll help highlight the thing that you're going for. And honestly, we could probably do a whole show just on resumes. But to Sean's point, feel free to send us your resume and we'll help you improve it. We'll call out what's good, what's bad, and help you kind of develop some tips moving forward.
Yep. All right. So getting into things that we thought were interesting as we put today together, I was asking myself the questions, do I want to earn more money? Putting myself in my own shoes and other people's shoes. Do I want to earn more money? How can I stand out from others when it comes from a job? How can I just increase my paycheck? What are some of the things that could help? And then I started asking myself, could I put in the time to maybe get a new certificate, maybe get some training and a new cert? And I started asking myself these questions.
Well, but that's, I mean, let's step back a sec because I had this conversation 3 days ago with the person who was asking me about their career in cyber. That is the first question to ask yourself. What's your motivation? And it's okay if making more money is your motivation. Maybe you're wanting to start a family, you want to save for a house, you want to buy that new purple Lamborghini that you've been eyeing. I mean, I don't know. But like that's the first question to ask yourself. Do you want to make a bunch of money? Do you want to earn your stripes and get a lot of experience into things that maybe you don't have experience in? What do you want to do? And a great example of this, and those that know will know, if you want to get into Department of Defense type work, you're not going to make a lot of money. It's not a high paying job. All those salaries are published and codified, and they have been for years. You're just not going to make a ton of money as an NSA analyst or something like that. But the type of work that you get exposed to with any kind of org like that, any kind of a government agency like
Hmm.
that, you can then parlay that experience later on in life, maybe your next job, into something that might pay a ton. Maybe you take that experience, and like a ton of my friends have done, use that to go start your own company and then really start raking in the cash, you know?
Yeah, we've seen that a bunch of times. There's a question in the chat. Hello, Jay Rayze in chat, asking about, hey, where can we send resumes? I'd say probably the easiest thing you can do. We'll give most of the contact info at the end of the show. But if you go into LinkedIn, find our channel, Cybersecurity Growth.
Yep.
Reach out to us through the channel over at Cybersecurity Growth. I think you can DM us there and send it,
Yeah.
and then we'll both get a copy of it. We'll send the rest of our contact info at the end of the show as well. But thank you for the question, and thank you for
And
joining us,
as an
Jay.
aside, because of the way that I found this person I talked to a couple of years ago, we did have some mutual friends, but like don't be afraid to reach out to people on LinkedIn and say, "Hey, I want to learn from you."
Hmm.
Hey, do you have 30 minutes where we can talk and I want to hear about your experience for a couple of reasons. A, everyone loves to talk about themselves, but also I know I can speak for you, Sean, because I know you so well. We love mentoring people. We
Love it.
love passing on our experiences to other people. So do not be afraid to find someone on LinkedIn and ask that question. They may not respond. Who knows? But cast a wide net, you're going to get some fish, I
Yeah,
guarantee
yeah,
you.
couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I was looking out on the light web, wasn't the dark web, um,
We
on the
just
internet.
call that the internet.
I was looking. I was out on the internet. This
Sean
very cool
Sean
thing.
spends so much time on the dark web that he has to
What do we
distinguish
call the
between
other
light
one?
and
The light web. I was on the light
the
web.
one I don't use. Yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
CSO Online had this article about the 12 hottest IT security certificates for higher pay
Hmm.
today. And I was like, oh, this would be
Okay.
super cool for us to talk about.
Let's talk about
And like,
certs.
so some of the things that popped up as I was reading through this article was that you can earn up to 11% more pay by getting a certificate. And I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. People ask me this question, yeah, and the look on your face, Garrett, is where I'm going to go with this. Okay, I'm going to take that as a note. You can earn, according to this article, up to 11% more in pay. I will tell you this right now. I will not hire you because you have a certificate.
Absolutely
I
not.
mean, I
And
could meet with you and we might have a cool conversation, but I'm not going to hire you because you have a cert over the person who doesn't. I'm just letting you know that.
that's
Um,
correct.
but I definitely, the fact you may have gotten a certificate, here's what that stands to me is you're a person who takes the time to do something and see it all the way through.
Hmm.
That is huge to me. It also kind of goes with like the college degree story.
It's
Like,
like a
I'm not
college
going to
degree.
hire someone just
Exactly.
because you have a bachelor's in cybersecurity or business administration or IS or computer science. I'm not going to hire you because of that. But the fact that you took the time to go through all that, you spent the 4 years in school to get that degree, like, it shows that you saw something through, and that stands out in itself. So
Now, if you have a CS master's and you have a really cool thesis, okay, I
You,
actually like
you got my
get really
attention, bro.
excited. Yeah,
You got
then
my
I might actually
attention.
get excited because I want to talk about whatever your thesis
Yeah.
was, or like I've never actually, interviewed any postdocs that I can think about, but like anything like that, of course. But to your point, yeah, a bachelor's degree, a cert, that just gets the conversation started. That's a foot in the door. And what I've found, which is terrible, and we'll get into all these certs, but there's a lot of penetration testing certifications out there. I care nothing about any of those because I need to see that you can actually do the job. And, if you have an OSCP and you actually have one legit and you didn't, get it through some kind of surreptitious manner, you can probably do the job. But again, that's just a conversation starter. Will it put you to the top of the stack of resumes? Possibly.
Yep.
But you're definitely not getting hired just because you have, oh, good God, like a CISSP or
Yeah.
something.
Oh, and we'll talk about that. And I have a
Uh,
CISSP. So like,
I do
as we make
too.
jokes, like, okay, first one that I saw on the list here, Cisco Certified Network Professional, the CCNP. Here's a couple things to note. Costs about $6,000 to take the classes.
Yep.
And you got to take 2 exams. They're $400 a piece and $300 a piece.
And that
So
used to be the CCNA, right?
I think so. I
I
think
mean,
so. I
back
don't
in the day
have
when
it.
I was in
Yep.
networking, yeah, I
And
didn't have a
I didn't get
CCNA.
into the space from networking. I was the one person when I was doing my training and my studying for the CISSP where I struggled the most on the network section because it
Hmm.
wasn't my strong suit. It wasn't.
Yep. Yeah, I remember back in the day, CCNA was the one that a lot of people went through. MCSE, of course, it's just
Oh
a
yeah.
general kind of computer cert. But I will tell you that there is a Cisco certification called, I think it's CCIE, which is a very small community of people. And that one's actually like you are the omnipotent godhead of all network technology. That one's pretty cool. But like, CCNP, that seems really, really
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
Well, but let's talk about that. Well, how do people pay for that kind of stuff?
Well, there's a couple ways to pay for it, right? Say you are on your own and you're looking for your first job. Okay, that's gonna be tough because somehow you got to come up with $6,700 for classes and the certificate. Okay,
Yep.
that's a lot. That is a lot of money. Period. I don't care where you are in career. That is a ton of money.
You can put it on a
But
credit
now,
card. I
do
don't
you have a
recommend it,
job
but
currently? This is where I want to start. Do you currently have a job? Ask your manager, ask your HR folks, hey, what type of training is available for us? Is there tuition reimbursement? Is there extra training that's available? You may already know this. I had a conversation with a team of folks yesterday. It is just so timely. There were about 25 of us, and we had a conversation around training budgets and the availability for training budgets within a company because most people didn't know, hey, guess what? There's money actually put aside for everyone to go for training at the company.
that's right.
Just
That's right.
nobody knew about it because there's not a good awareness. There's not good marketing around it. So
Hmm.
it is very likely that your company already has money put aside for you to take some training. Maybe they don't have $6,700 put aside for you, but maybe they have some of that put aside for you. And maybe
Yep.
they have a little bit for every employee put aside. And if you ask nicely, your manager and your HR person, hey, I want to take this Cisco training and certification because it is going to help me do a much better job on our firewalls, on our Wi-Fi, on our network security. Those people may say, "Oh, you actually are going to help us as a business improve our security. We're going to take from everyone's training budget and give it to you because you have a compelling reason to go for training."
That's right. And that's, Sean, that is a really good point that a lot of people don't think about. Do not be afraid or shy to ask for this training money because that is an investment in you that will benefit the company. It is, I mean, I have done it before. I've invested in people, sent people to conferences. I know you have too. It's an investment in your people that will make them better at their job.
I want to give folks a hint here of something. For those of you who have been in jobs for a few years and maybe, just maybe, you have a half decent manager, maybe, just maybe, you have a half decent manager. Hopefully, you have some goals that you're supposed to achieve, by the end of the year. If you don't have this goal, as you're planning for maybe next year's goals, maybe suggest to your manager, hey, manager, I want to continuously improve myself, which will help me grow in my profession, but it'll also help the company. The more I understand my space, my space of the business, the more I can help the company do achieve our goals.
That's right.
So, hey,
That's right.
boss, can I add a new goal to my goals for next year? Something along the lines like I want to achieve 40 hours of personal development, which could be paid training, free training, going to a conference, if you put it on
Yep.
as a goal, now you and your manager are accountable for you to achieve that goal. If it's not already
Yep.
one of your goals, I would encourage you to advocate for yourself and make it a goal for next year. And then what will happen is before the end of next year, if you have annual goals, you're going to find a way to get some training done to meet that goal. It's a piece of
That's
cake
right.
to meet.
That's
And
right.
then also now that you have it as a goal, it makes it a whole lot easier to then ask for training because like, hey, it's a business goal you're trying to meet.
That's also another opportunity to get your manager to budget that kind of stuff. It doesn't necessarily have to be
Mm,
through this training budget. It could be, hey, I have a project because instead of hiring so and so to do this thing, I'm going to train Sean on how to do this thing and we're going to fund it that way. So, I mean, trust me, Sean and I have both been in security leadership roles. And I mean, speaking for myself, I really want to level up my people. I mean, that's one of my jobs as a manager, and that is a super easy way. I'm just going to say it like that. It's a super easy way for me to level up my people is when they have that type of goal set of I'm going to learn all this stuff, I'm going to take this exam, I'm now going to be certified because there are some job functions that may require certifications that you do things.
yep.
Different information handling type jobs, things of that nature.
Yeah, it's a good point. Okay, before we move on to the next one, I wanted to say this at the top of the show because it just makes me laugh sometimes. I like to share some of the certifications that I have received throughout my career.
Oh God.
I am I have an LCP certification that is Lotus Certified Professional. Yes, I am certified in Lotus
Yeah,
Notes and
you're
Lotus
certified, all right.
Dominoes administration for Lotus Notes version 5.0. I believe I
75% of people don't even know what Lotus Notes is, I
I
guarantee
believe
you.
I got that in 1997. And I'm also MCP certified, as Microsoft Certified Professional for
Uh-huh.
implementing and deploying Windows 95.
Oh boy. That's
I like to
great.
highlight the good ones.
That's great. Do you have an A plus
I
and an N
don't.
plus
No,
as
I
well?
don't have the
Yeah,
A plus. I
those
wish
are
I did.
good. Those are good.
All right, the next one I saw on here was Certified Cloud Security Professional. I put it on towards the top of the list because I will say this: cloud security professionals. It's one of the hottest spaces to want to be in. It's one of the spaces where folks are looking to hire. It is probably one of the more mature spaces when a company is like staffing their security folks. But cloud security folks are hard to come by. There's not too many of them. And now to see the ISC Squared, that's a company that makes the CISSP. They created a cloud certified cloud security professional. So the ISC Squared CCSP.
Is that a separate track or is that a prerequisite to CISSP? Is that, I mean, how does that fit into the whole
Separate track. Separate
CISSP
in
pantheon?
itself is a
Okay,
separate track, yeah. And so a
interesting.
couple things I learned about it. They have online training that are in there. So it's about $960 for their training. So you
That's a
take
lot
that.
of double
Yeah,
cheeseburgers.
that's for the training. Then you can bundle it to get the training and the certificate, and it's about $1,600 for the training and the certificate. I
Wow.
haven't gone through the certificate. I have gone through one of the IC squared certs, CISSP. It was a lot of work. I put a lot of work into studying and getting ready for a big exam, and here we are. So they're a very reputable certification org.
Just to make a callback, I'll let you know that a company that I worked for actually like sponsored us to do a CISSP training. We actually had a CISSP certified proctor as an employee at this company, and they set us up for, I mean, we carved time out of our day. I remember it was, I don't know, a couple, 2, 3 weeks or whatever, where we'd get together on a regular basis. We'd study all this kind of stuff together to prepare for that CISSP exam, and it helped most of us pass with flying colors. So again, that is another way to maybe offset some of that cost is instead of paying for this training that the certification vendor will offer, maybe you just buy the study guide and you partner
Yep.
up with someone who's taken that exam before.
I was just thinking, do I have the book here? I have the
I've got it
CISSP
somewhere.
book somewhere. I was just on a call with someone not too long ago who had the CISSP book on their bookshelf right behind us. I had worked at a company called MITRE. You may have heard of them. Um,
Mm.
and MITRE has a whole dedicated training department, which at one point I got involved in the training department. But when I said, oh, hey, I want to get this certification, there was a 5-day training course for employees, and it was led by an employee on prepping for the CISSP. And like I say, I was super fortunate, very lucky that I went to
Yeah,
my
same.
manager and said, hey, manager, can I just go sign up for this course that's like in a classroom right down the hallway from our office? And he said, sure. That's great.
That's cool. That's really cool.
I'm gonna look at the next one that I saw on here as I was scrolling around. Certified Forensic Computer Examiner,
Never even heard of this one.
CFCE. So
Yeah.
talk about specialized. Talk about extremely. If I think about like here's the acronym DFIR, Digital Forensics Incident Response. Um, it's a very, very specific. So I guess if you want to get deep into computer forensics, there is a certificate about it. To
There
qualify
definitely
for this
is.
exam, you must complete 72 hours of training in digital forensics. And it can be satisfied by taking a basic forensics examiner course. And it has to do with the IACIS board. So this is an area that I'm not very familiar with, but I saw it
Mhm.
on this list of like top 12 certificates. This one would be interesting because if I'm thinking about being a hiring manager, like this would be a very specific job that
Right.
this certificate
Right.
would really come into play. Um,
Right.
I have a team member who has been asking me, should I get into digital forensics? And I say, it can't hurt. Knowing digital forensics can only help, but it's extremely specialized. And I would say it takes a very large company to hire forensics focused
Yep.
people, unless
Yep.
you are a dedicated security company, then
Right.
it might be part of it.
And I hear DFIR a lot. I mean, I can't stress enough, like those to me are two very separate jobs, like incident response and then digital forensics. I mean, yes, you're doing a forensic analysis when you're, looking into an incident, but like I've hired tons of incident response people. I've never hired a digital forensics person
I,
ever.
I um I had to use the acronym today. I see it all the time. I've seen it for the last few years. I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, what the hell's DFIR? And then I realized what it
Well,
was like. Oh, I know both of those two separate acronyms. I didn't know they were one. To your point, they're very different jobs.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and for all the defer people out there, there's a term fuzzy snuggly duck. We'll just
go
put
look it
that
up.
out there. Yeah.
Go look it up. Okay, here's the next one. GIAC, GIAC, Reverse Engineering Malware Certificate, the GREM.
Which which I'd never heard of this before, but of course I've heard of the GPEN, which GIAC also puts on. And they have a ton of different security certifications as
Yeah.
well.
I didn't know. I'd never heard of it before either. But again, why are we doing the show? We're just here throwing ideas out there. Like you
Just
want to
throwing
up
ideas
level,
out.
you want to up level your career, maybe make a little more money. These are things you can go look into on your own.
Yep.
As we get more like so we're definitely in like the ops space right now.
Mhm.
Let's go a little bit into kind of more the compliance and the governance and the GRC space. There's a ton of certs out there as well. There's the Certified Information Privacy Manager cert that you could get into. So if you seem somehow if you're in this kind of the business side of information security and you're working a lot with the legal folks, there's nothing better you can do if you're really tightly tied to the legal folks than to understand their world.
Yep.
Privacy is not an information security uh, discipline. It is a legal discipline. Privacy is about law. Um, a lot of the privacy work ends up coming over to the information security team to implement the controls that align with the privacy law. So if you are
But
working
you
closely with the legal team, this might be one to take a peek at.
you add a lot of value to the security team if you specialize in this, because normally, like Sean's saying, we have to borrow a lot of time from the legal team to help define some of these privacy safeguards and adhere to them and make sure that we're crossing all our T's and dotting our I's. So again, to Sean's point of you want to make some more money, you want to be more valuable to your team, that could be a great chance to uplevel yourself and say, hey, listen, I will be the intermediary between us and legal and guarantee you'll save a bunch of time and
Yeah.
that'll be a boon for everyone. So that's a great one to
There's
look
another
into.
one in kind of like in this field as well. I see this one a lot on folks' resumes who are kind of in the GRC, governance, risk, and compliance space. CISM, the Certified Information Security Manager certificate. Have you seen this one much, Garrett?
No, it seems a lot like a CISSP though.
And I think it is more focused. It's funny, I don't have it. I haven't really looked into it, but I think it is much more focused around kind of the compliance side of the
Mhm.
CISSP.
Which, by the way, CISSP is one of the most popular ones out there. It gets thrown out a lot. I need to stress to people, you do not need a CISSP to work in security. You need a CISSP if you want to manage a security program. That's
Mm.
really what that taught me was how to manage a cybersecurity program. It's not a bad cert to get. I'm definitely not talking trash about it, but do not start chasing the CISSP to get your foot in the door working as an analyst or an engineer or something of that nature. Like it's not worth it.
So,
And it requires a ton of experience. I think you need like 5 years of experience in security to even qualify for that. Oh, okay,
so
that
oh yeah,
makes sense.
CISA and CISM are both part of ISACA. There we go. We keep saying the acronym. Let's talk about CISSP, the
Let's do it.
Certified Information Systems Security Professional.
Mhm.
It is from ISC Squared. We mentioned them earlier from one of the other certs. Okay, why do we keep talking about it? For whatever reason, this seems like the be all end all, the top of the pyramid of security certificates. It covers a boatload of domains. I remember when I took it, it was 8 very separate specific domains.
Yep.
And it was a half day exam, something like, I forget what it was. Maybe
It is a
you're in a room for 6
grueling
hours.
test.
Um, and
Oh, it's the
it's a
worst.
pass fail. Back when I took it, they were the blue paper books, and you had to circle the little dots. And like a week or two later, you found out if you passed or failed. Today, it's all done on these things called computers,
Yeah.
and and as you and it'll actually let you know that if you're far enough along and you blew it, it'll be like, stop, go home, you fail.
Yep. Yep. I was actually waiting for that as I was doing mine. I thankfully did pass mine first go, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people and that's that test, by the way, Sean, keep me honest, it's like $800.
Yeah,
Like
it was
it's
a
not
lot of
cheap.
it's a lot of money. It was a lot of money.
And you
And
have
then
to
there's
go to
training
some
courses
like
there's many training courses out there. There's books out there that you can buy for $40, which are probably 1,000 pages. I forget. Like every year, I see the CISSP
I
book
was looking for
that just
mine.
like keeps like growing in size. It's a ton of content. It is kind of like the series of all the domains, and it doesn't cover everything. Any one of us will look at it and be like, well, you kind
It's
of missed something.
huge.
But anyways,
It's huge.
so
Like it's
CISSP, why did I go for the CISSP? At the time, I was working for a government contractor, a not-for-profit government contractor, and most of our work was very closely tied to government programs. And I was learning that the security program managers that were government employees were required to get their CISSP within 6 months of obtaining the job of a security program manager. And I said, well, if I'm a contractor working in your org, if you think about it, I'm kind of like a consultant. That's not fair of you to have to do this and me to not have to do it. So I put myself on blast, right? I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take a class. I'm going to learn it. And started taking the class. Like, oh, look, this is a lot of work. This is a whole lot of work. And there's a couple domains that I definitely don't know as well as I thought I did. I didn't know a whole lot about the physical security side of things, where I had to learn about shrubbery.
bollards.
I had to
Where
learn
to
I had to learn about shrubbery and bushes, and I had to
where to
learn.
place bollards. Yeah.
Yes, I was like, wow, I am legitimately learning about fencing, like not like not with a
Mm-mm.
sword, but with actual
Mm-mm.
fence posts. Like I'm learning
Or
about
geofencing, like
no,
literally
no
fences.
geofencing,
Yeah.
actual fence. So a lot of domains in there. I'm very glad I got that. I wouldn't hire someone because they had that, but I'll have a great conversation about it, and I'll also know somebody spent a lot of time studying. Someone spent a lot of time studying to take a test.
And what's funny, and hopefully I don't get a cease and desist from ISC squared. So I let mine lapse. I was just like, I don't need this anymore. I have gotten so many notifications from them of just like, hey, just pay us like $80 and we'll
You're back in. You're
reinstate
back
your
in.
CISP.
I did almost let mine lapse. I got to a point where I said, in my career, I don't need it anymore, because you do have to re-up every few years, or every year. I
Yep.
think you have to pay like an annual fee, and if you do so
Annual
much like
fee.
regular training to just kind of keep yourself current,
That's
which
right.
I 100% agree with that, because the fees help kind of keep running that organization, and then
Right.
keeping yourself current is keeping yourself current. Which
That's
if
right.
you are in this business and you don't like to be an always learner, go find another job. This is a
Not the job for
anyone
you.
who's listening to the show, anybody who's interested in this, if you don't just love to continuously learn things, you're in the wrong field.
That's
Um,
right. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
so, uh, anyways, that's why I got into the CISSP, because I had colleagues around me who were into it. All right.
So for the sake of time, let's wrap up the certs because I mean there are so many certs out there. There's is I mean I see 12 more in
Oh
our
yeah,
notes that
We're
we could
going for
talk
another half
about.
hour, and we got stuff to do, and I'm sure everybody else has stuff to do today.
Right. But I guess my final thought on this is if you're interested in a cert, research it. Don't just go by what everyone else says. Do some research into it. Find out what it requires. Find out how much it costs. Find out what it's going to do for you. And if it, is something that interests you, definitely go for it. And again, figure out a way to get your job to pay for it.
That sounds good. Garrett, what else did we need to cover today before we wrap up?
We could probably do a part two of this one, honestly, because I there's a lot more I want to talk about. Industry orgs, how to break into InfoSec, talk about passing a tech screen. Do you deal with recruiters, using your network, things of that nature?
All right.
So I
Next
think
time we get
there's
to maybe
probably
that's
a
that
part
next time
two.
we get together, we pick it up. We keep doing that. It's a good show. I like how we kind of breezed into it, talked about some things we hadn't covered before, getting into some
Well,
new areas.
it's a really important topic because a
It
lot of
is.
people want to break into this field, and there's not a lot of education out there of how to do that. Like, oh, do I have to go get a computer science degree? I mean, it wouldn't hurt. Like, if you want to get into, actual application security, or you want to start reverse engineering malware, having a firm grasp on how to write software is pretty important. But you want to be a security analyst? No, you don't need a CS degree at all.
Let's wrap this thing up. Thank you all for listening. I am Sean Valley, the creator of the show and the music here on Cybersecurity Growth. You can check us out at cybersecuritygrowth.com, and you can find all of our shows at cybersecuritygrowth.com/blog. You can find me online at most of the social places under @SeanValley or @CybersecurityGrowth. You can find us on LinkedIn as well. You can send us your resumes there as well. If you like the show, please tell all of your friends. If you hate it, please tell everybody whose LinkedIn profile just has like 15 acronyms after their name with commas separated by them. Yeah, I love when I see people on LinkedIn that they've got their name and then every single one of their certificates after their name on LinkedIn. That's who you should tell about our show if you didn't like the show. Please like and subscribe to the show. Leave 5 stars wherever you're watching or listening. You can leave a review like, great show. I learned how to make lots more money by getting certified. Yep, there we go. Garrett doesn't do much of the social. Garrett, where can people find you?
So you can find me hanging out in the front of your local Pearson Proctored Test Center. I'll be handing out copies of the CISSP answer sheet for an exorbitant amount of money. So just find me there. I'll be in a gray trench coat and hiding out in the shadows.
And I will have my blue book that I kept when I walked out of the CISSP testing farm, and you can see I have all of my circled answers. I'm sure they've never changed the test since I took it.
No. The answers to your questions are all the same.
They're all there.
Always.
This week we covered leveling up your career with training and certifications. You can find us live on Twitch every other week. I'm winking when I say that. We're here Fridays at 1:30 p.m. Eastern, 10:30 a.m. Pacific, and 6:30 p.m. GMT, and we're in your pod feeds a few weeks later. Follow us online to find out when we are really going to be online for our next show. We generally do these on Friday. So that is, I think, what is it, 1 truth and 2 lies? Something like that.
Just another plug for the LinkedIn post for Cybersecurity Growth, because that is usually when we will post, hey, we're about to go live, or hey, we just released this show, or hey, here's some funny TikToks that Sean has put together to highlight the show.
Those are all truths. Those are the truths right there. 2 truths and a lie right there.
That's right.
All right, thank you, Garrett. Nice hanging out with you. Thanks everybody for watching. We will catch you next time. Bye for now,
Great
everyone.
seeing you. Take care.